Welcome aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. We are a foursome today. Mr. Kerr is here with me again, but we are driving with two of our great friends. And one of them Leslie, I don't even know if we've had you on for video yet. So we've got Summer Hall, who is back on the show for the umpteenth time from the Points Guy, and Leslie Harvey, who is our buddy from Trips with Tykes, who's been on the show a number of times before we transitioned over into video late last year. But I think this is the first time that you are quasi-live and in person with us. How you doing, Leslie?
I'm great. We transitioned to video on my podcast too, so this is like perfect timing.
I love it. Well, crazy things do happen here on the Miles to Go podcast, and lots of them do happen on video. But Summer, I am really glad to see that you were able to locate the 7-year-old's headphones again for recording. I appreciate it.
It was hard. I did have to ask her where were they because they weren't where they normally are. And she's like, "Are you looking for the really old ones? Why?"
Mom, you know there's cool new technology. And she's like, no, I don't want the cool new technology.
No. Y'all, these have lasted for like 12 years. They cost $12 and I don't have to plug them in to charge them. They're great.
Oh, I love it. All right, well, we're going to be talking about a place that everybody on this podcast has been except for me. And by the time this episode drops, I will likely have been there. We're going to be talking about Tokyo Disney. And boy, there's a lot of exciting things going on there at the moment, including a new third park opening up. And from what all my Disney friends have told me is, one of their favorite parks in the world of all the Disney parks. While I've been to Tokyo, never been to Tokyo Disney, so I figured it'd be a great time to bring on a couple more experts to have a conversation about it. A little bit of housekeeping before we get there, though. If you're watching on YouTube, if you could hit the subscribe button and give us a like, we would absolutely love that. If you're listening, a subscribe and a like on that platform is just as helpful to us. We really appreciate that. You can find him on all those social media channels at Kerr Points. Summer is at Mommy Points on all those same channels. Leslie is at Trips with Tykes, and all those will be in the show notes. As always, I am Pizza in Motion. You can email the show, ed@pizzainmotion.com, and you can also text us or leave us a voicemail at 571-293-6659. All right, so as folks know, Mr. Kerr lived in Tokyo for 4 years?
Yeah, something like that.
And so as I learned today, you did visit Tokyo Disney while you were there. I didn't know how long you'd been a closet Disney nerd. We know you're out in public now with your Disney nerdiness. But Summer and Leslie recently wrote a great, thorough article about Tokyo Disney. And the timing is great because we've got, all kinds of new developments. Not only do we have the new park, but just at the time of our recording, they've also launched a new package, which I don't even know that we know the pricing on yet. I was poking around a little bit, but there's now an unlimited package, so you can spend even more money with our favorite mouse. So I guess, at a high level, I'm curious, and, Leslie, since you haven't been on with us in a while, I'll start with you. Like, what is it that makes Tokyo Disney so special, in your opinion?
So I think everything that's special about Disney is multiplied at Tokyo Disney. The things that we love about that theme park, like compared to other theme parks, right? It's cleaner, the cast is nicer, the service is better. But then you take that to Japan, to a culture that is service-oriented, where, things shouldn't break, things should always work. And you just get that on steroids. You really just do. And then they just have they've just spent more money on the parks, like square foot by square foot. And it shows, I think a lot of folks don't realize it's owned like 51% by not Disney, by Oriental Land Company. And they spend more money than Disney does.
Yeah, and this is a theme that Disney used in multiple parks, and it didn't go as well in some places. So I remember visiting Disneyland Paris when Disney was not the majority owner, and I remember a fist fight in one of the fountains between two kids while we were there, along with numerous broken rides and very few food choices. So this model of joint ownership has had its ups and downs, and for all intents and purposes, it sounds like it's killing it in Tokyo. Leslie, I know Summer stayed on site when she was there, but I'm curious, did you stay on site the last time you went?
Yes, the last and only time I went, we stayed at the Tokyo Disneyland Hotel, which Summer stayed in as well. And that was the only way I was going to do it if I was headed to Tokyo.
Yeah, which I've done as well. I bought a package. I can't quite tell what I bought. There are a lot of little details. There are popcorn buckets and passes, and there are, for folks who think Disney World is complicated, trust me when I say, at least from the reading, there are a couple more levels of complication beyond that. in Tokyo. But Summer, I think you ended up doing a really good job of, I won't say hacking it per se, but staying in the newer hotel and having great park access. Did you like the way that you hit the parks? Because you guys did, if I remember correctly, you did 2 separate hotels, right?
We did. I mean, we hop around. Like a normal person, I don't necessarily recommend changing hotels quite as much as we do. But yes, on the whole, loved what we did. So we stayed at both the Tokyo Disney Sea Miracosta Hotel, which is connected to Disney Sea. And then we stayed, just like Leslie, at the Tokyo Disneyland Hotel, which was my favorite of the 2. I did not expect that going in based on what everybody else had said about them. But I loved the themed rooms at the Disneyland Hotel. It's like Grand Floridian on steroids. And I think that that's true of like the parks in general there. Like Leslie was saying, they're like what you know and love here, but kind of bigger, better, sparklier, working better. It's how it appears in your dreams, but it's there in reality. And right now, with the yen and the dollar being what they are, it's so much more affordable. So you're talking about a pass, you can throw more dollars at the mouse. Well, I don't know what that pass costs. This is news to me, but I bet it's way less than it would the equivalent would be here in the US.
Yeah. I would bet. Now, Richard, when you used to go, obviously the dollar was a lot weaker against the yen back then. But what's your opinion, having been to both Disney World and the Tokyo Disney parks, in terms of the affordability of one versus the other?
Yeah, so the way we always did it is we stayed at the Hilton Tokyo Bay, which is like literally right on the little peninsula there. And back then it was like 20,000 Hilton points a night, which was just a killer. I've looked it up. It looks like base rooms start around 45,000 Hilton points at a Summers point. With the yen to dollar, rooms are only like $180. So I wouldn't be using Hilton points. I'd book it for $180. You just literally walk outside, walk up to the monorail, and then you take the monorail over to each of the parks. So, and they got some pretty cool themed rooms over at the Hilton Tokyo Bay, and you can grab breakfast. So I imagine it's a lot more affordable than whatever the official hotels are now on property. But it was a great setup because you can take the train from Tokyo, super easy over there, hop on the monorail to get in the Hilton Tokyo Bay, and it was just kind of set up. We did anytime somebody came to visit, we'd take the train over there, stay in the Hilton, and then do typically Disney Sea because it was such a different park. And it's just a great little setup that they got over there.
But I'm going to argue, if you don't live in Japan, that's not what you should do. If you can afford it, if that's the only way you can do it, use your points. Awesome. But if this is a once in a lifetime trip, you don't live there, the hotels there are not nearly as much as you would think. Again, the dollar to yen thing going on, but their top tier hotels start around 400, 450. As opposed to Disney World, where it's double that for like the Grand Floridian a lot of dates. So, and then of course there are more budget-friendly hotels that they have are less than that. So I'm going to argue, jumping ahead, you should not do what Richard just said if this is once in a lifetime.
Yeah, it looks like the yen is $1 is 161.47 yen today. And the entire time I lived there, it was like 80 to 85 yen. So if my dollar's going twice as far, then man, I want to go to Japan and just live at large here for half price off of everything.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I suffered from when I booked was I was right in this window where the packages for the new park were on sale. And Summer, you helped me with some of this. It was so crazy trying to book stuff online, and you're figuring out the time differences and when things go on sale. The website, Disney. If you're a Disney fan in the U.S., you're used to technology that sometimes doesn't work quite the way you want it to. And then you get over to the Tokyo Disney Sea website or the Tokyo Disney website in general, and I would argue that maybe it's not worse, but it's different enough that it's very hard to learn. So the first couple of days I was trying, I wasn't even clicking on the right buttons. I was on the wrong pages, and it just took some time to really absorb it. And I sort of got stuck in this model where I just couldn't piece together everything I needed quickly enough for when I realized this stuff was on sale, and I ended up having to buy a package. And it felt pricey because there was so much demand right now for the new park that these all-inclusive packages that included a lot of stuff that, sounds cool, but we probably won't use. A couple of sit-down dinners, popcorn buckets, all this other stuff got thrown into the price and made the packages probably more expensive than if you spent some more time on it, you probably could have gotten. And that was where I kind of got stuck within all this demand.
Yeah, I would argue, Ed, that the website and the IT is worse at Tokyo Disneyland. And so as much as I've praised like the in-park experience, it is nothing short of, sometimes an unmitigated disaster dealing with the website, especially as an American, because there's certain things, the translations are not good.
Right.
You miss, I've heard from people who can read Japanese as well as English that they're not full translations, like they leave things out. So you don't even get like all the fine print. And as a lawyer, a former lawyer, that drives me absolutely crazy. And then there are all these, like you say, all these packages. And Summer and I believe Summer, you didn't book one either. I just booked a hotel room and then I bought my park tickets separately. But now with this new land, Fantasy Springs, the packages are becoming more necessary to sort of hack the park. And so I think a lot more Americans are considering those. Very few book them before like this month.
Yeah, but I had no idea at the time if I was making the right decision with a package or not. I was like, I don't know what this is, but it was fine without. But yeah, I think Fantasy Springs has changed the equation.
That's pretty much the case for any Japanese website you ever go to. There's just so much text on there. And you go to the English version, like you go to Japan Airlines' website right now and do this. Like you click on terms or look at mileage bank program, and it's just a wall of Japanese characters. And you go to the American or English, and it's like 1/10 of the language that's on the screen. You're like, probably something missing here. It was that case for every Japanese everything, I promise. It's always so much.
Yeah, I think, Summer, to your point about, I probably didn't need a package, but if we had been going a month earlier before Fantasy Springs opened, I definitely think I could have pieced things together. I just couldn't, after trying for 10, 12 days, I couldn't get any access to Fantasy Springs in time before it like instantly sold out. And I think this sort of goes to, and Richard, you probably have good experience with this from when you were there, but like everything I see is that these parks are insanely popular with the locals. And so you're not just fighting people taking a once in a lifetime vacation like you are in the US, you're fighting tons and tons of people that go on a regular basis.
I mean, you talk about the diehards of Japanese culture and anything that they jump into, it's just next level in my experience of being there for 3 years. So whether it was Disney or sports or any kind of hobby, it is just next level kind of fandom. So all of us are familiar with diehard Disney people here. I would rank all of us, in the top 5% of diehard Disney as people get. We would be like in the top 75% of what diehard Japanese Disney is, right? And that's what you're competing against. I mean, I always wondered, like, man, if I could read Japanese or speak it, like what subcultures of this Disney in Japan am I missing out on here, where they have figured out next level hacks and things to do to, I can only imagine what you're going up against. But thankfully, it's just nowhere near as crazy as like trying to navigate Genie Plus or whatever the heck the new name is now down in Orlando. It's still easier.
And what's cool about this is I had like a lot of fears going into it too, that I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know, this is a new park to me. But just throwing a few dollars at a problem there solves it. And it literally is just a few dollars there, as opposed to in Orlando where a few dollars means a couple hundred really quickly. It does seem that, those folks who go a lot over there, they don't all throw money at their Premier Access and everything the way that people might do more often at Disney World. So by just paying $12 or so, we cut 2-hour lines on the regular. And so I do feel like competing is maybe the wrong word, but like if you are competing to do the most number of rides with the fewest amount of time in line per day, that was a really easy competition to win with just spending a few dollars.
Well, yeah, and you touched on something that I want to talk about, because I think the Premier Access thing, has two layers to it. First off, for folks that don't know, this is at least the best way I can think about it is sort of like back to maybe a version of the old paper fast pass systems, except you're paying to get your cut the line pass for a specific ride. So like, I think back in the days of, I'll use Leslie's home park, you'd run into Disneyland California Adventure, and nowhere near the actual Radiator Springs ride, there were a couple of kiosks where you'd pull your paper fast pass for a Radiator Springs ride. And if you were lucky and you got there quickly, maybe you got a return time 3 or 4 hours later. So it sounds like Premier Access is similar to that, except I'm also swiping my credit card when I do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess its closest cousin today is paid Lightning Lane at Disney World or Disneyland, but you can pick a time. So at Disneyland, you can't pick a time. You only get like the next available. So
right.
So I do like that. So it does help you a little bit, like plan your day, but it is complicated. I mean, they have so many different ways to cut different lines for different attractions. Like they also have a free fast pass. Essentially, it's the 40th anniversary.
The 40th anniversary pass, right? Yeah.
Priority pass. Yeah. And then they have the paid Premier Access, and now they have standby pass, and they have. I mean, how many different names? Summer are there? There's like 5 or 6. It's so many.
And this is where, like I was saying, don't do what Richard did if you have the budget to stay on property.
Just
right
good advice
now.
in life, pretty much. Don't do it, Richard.
Don't do it, Richard. I mean,
Lord.
sometimes,
Just
but not
spend money.
always. That's the Ed approach.
Throw money at it.
But this matters because you start being able to purchase these things or get them for free in the case of the 40th anniversary once you are in the park. And when you stay on property at one of the Disney operated hotels and resorts, you can get happy entry, which is only 15 minutes early, but it's a very important 15 minutes. And it's really not just 15 minutes because think of all of that massive humanity that's going to be getting in after you. And the happy entry line is shorter. So you get in 15 minutes earlier in a shorter line than this mass that is getting in after you. And so you can go ahead and get your first passes, both the free one and the paid one if you're doing that. And then in some cases, you can go ahead and almost use one before everybody else is getting in, which means you can now get another one.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to ask from a strategy standpoint. So, and again, I know things are changing and we want folks to be aware that you probably need to Google before you go, depending on how long after this drops that you read it, because we already know there's at least one new product that we don't know all the details on. But so like I hit the happy entry line, I grab my freebies for the 40th pass if that's still around when people are going. I grab a Premier Access. In my head, if I'm thinking like Disney World or maybe even Disneyland, if I was doing that here in the US, I would be walking to my first ride while I'm doing those things.
Yes.
And I would be getting on a short line for something while I got maybe I'm on a short line for their version of Toy Story while I'm grabbing Rapunzel's lanterns, if you will. Is that similar to what I'm doing here?
You're power walking and hoping you don't trip while you're on your phone. Yeah.
And it's really hard for first timers. It was hard for me because I was like, I'm at Tokyo Disney. I want to see everything.
Yeah.
I want to take it in. And instead, like, because I'm the master of like all the Disney bookings in my family, I'm sitting there with my face in my phone. And that does feel like a little bit frustrating. But I would just say, like, do it. It's worth it. And then, like, maybe circle back a couple hours later and take a look at the front of the park.
And if you're like us, you're an idiot and you're doing like content creation as you walk in and try to get your passes and try to find the ride because you've probably never been there. And so you're also trying to figure out where exactly do I go to get in line for whatever you're getting in line for. So those first few minutes for me were really stressful, hoping the technology worked, hoping I went the right direction, hoping I got the content I needed, which is a me problem. But then it got better. And like Leslie said, it was totally worth it once you sort of got in the groove a few minutes later. But yes, you're walking to your first free ride while you're lining up your next rides on your phone.
It is. I mean, it is a little bit frustrating that it takes that many different points of light to actually accomplish that stuff for kids. Because on top of all of that, Richard's probably the only one of the four of us who has a benefit of having visited Tokyo Disney Sea while not jet lagged as all get out, and being adjusted to local time. So I mean, there's this effect of it's going to be a 14-hour time difference when I'm walking through the parks the first time trying to figure all this out.
It was still paper fast passes the last time I went, which was actually awesome because randomly people would walk by and be like, "We can't make this anymore. Here, give it to the big American white guy," and just hand me their fast pass ticket. And I was like, "Sweet, like this is awesome."
I miss the paper fast pass days. I do. We had that system worked out pretty well. We had it figured out.
Simpler times.
Yeah. Yes, they were simpler times.
Still with a lot of early fast power walking across the parks.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I agree. But I can handle fast power walking when I don't have to be glued to my phone the whole time. So Summer, how many days did you guys go for? How many days were you in the parks?
So we stayed on Disney property 3 nights, 2 nights in one hotel, 1 night in the other, but we were in the parks for 2 days, 1 day for each park.
And Leslie, how about you?
So we had 2 nights in the one hotel, and we had not quite 2 park days because we had a 9 p.m. flight out of Narita the second day. So we stayed till about 5 p.m., hopped in an airporter and went to the airport and flew home.
Hopped in the airporter to Narita or Haneda?
Yeah, to Narita. Wow. Luckily, it was I think it was a Sunday. Traffic was fine. Yeah. We didn't have issues. In fact, we had too much time at Narita that we sat in a really bad priority pass lounge.
Richard, what's that normal commute time from Tokyo Disney to Narita?
Gosh, man, it depends on what the train schedules are doing these days. So you're at least on the right side of Tokyo, so can't be too bad. No.
When you think about these parks, Richard, because you've obviously spent a bunch of time in the parks here, you got to see Disney Sea and the regular Tokyo Disneyland. How much time should I be spending in the regular Tokyo Disneyland versus spending my time in the new park in Disney Sea, in your opinion?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of hard to answer because you got to see it all, right? So However long
it
takes to see it all. No idea how long the new park or how big it is or what it takes. But if you have an option to spend more time in Disney seeing the new park rather than Disneyland, you should do that because it's just super unique. But there's also really unique things in Disneyland as well you don't want to miss. So I don't know, man. Really hard to answer that one.
I think we would now need a third day. If you're a Disney person, I mean, if all you have is a day, all you have is a day. But like, if you really want that to be a feature part of your trip to Japan and you've never been and you're a Disney person, I think it's now at 3 days.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we felt like we pretty much did everything in Tokyo Disney Sea in a very full, very optimized day before Fantasy Springs opened.
Right.
So add in 4 new rides in Fantasy Springs and all these complicated ways that you can access it or maybe not access it if you aren't paying the big bucks. And you need that extra, at least a half day. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's definitely a 3-day resort now. And we should also mention there's no park hopping at Tokyo Disney Resort.
Right.
So it's not like you can spend half a day at Tokyo Disneyland and then hop over to Tokyo Disney Sea. And even if you did that, like all the priority passes would be gone. So it wouldn't even be worth it. So you've got to, I guess, pace yourself and spread it out a little bit more.
Thankfully, it seems like, absent the, egregiously priced package that I bought, the actual park tickets themselves are not as brutal as the U.S. prices.
They're amazing. Not as brutal. They're amazing.
Well, I mean, $50 a head is still not necessarily what I call amazing.
Right
it's amazing,
now,
amazing
it's
in
the summer
perspective.
Here.
Yeah.
And if I take my kids to go to the trampoline park or whatever in town, like it's approaching not necessarily 50 full bucks a head, but like the kid tickets there aren't 50 either. So, I go do a mediocre activity here in Texas in the summer, and it is approaching the price of the tickets to go to Tokyo Disney Sea.
Yeah.
Super true. Swire Trampoline Park here in town, and this massive metropolis in the middle of nowhere, Georgia, I live in, just closed because it's like $100 to take a family to trampoline park, and I was like, we'll just go to the neighborhood pool. Like I'm not, like this wild.
Well, if you park your RV in my driveway, I have a trampoline, so you can, as long as you can pay the gas to get up here, you can use a trampoline park for free every day you want.
Well, we got a lot of jokes about that, but I'll hold on to it for now.
I think they write themselves.
Yeah,
they really do. All right, so I have 3 full days and three park tickets, but I'm doing something quasi similar to what Summer did in that we land on day 1 at like 3:00 in the afternoon. We'll check into our Disney hotel, we'll sleep, and then the next day is my first full day. So I'm not sure how much we'll get done that first day.
We had a full, uneventful, great day. I mean, fingers crossed. We were coming from Hawaii as well, so maybe that was a little bit easier. But our first full day was outstanding and normal, and we were there from rope drop to closing.
Oh,
so,
wow. Yeah.
And my kids are younger, so I'm crossing fingers for you. But we were coming from Hawaii, so a little shorter.
I will blame you for my return trip because when my daughter heard that you had done Hawaii to Tokyo, and she knew we were going to Tokyo, and she loved Hawaii so much last year, she's like, well, can't we just stop in Hawaii on the way back? And
as
so
one does.
As one does. So I'm down here to Hawaii.
Are you on the A380? Because that was an outstanding way to do it.
I tried that. The pricing just didn't work out for us. So I got, as lucky as I'm ever going to get on Delta, and managed to get 4 global upgrade certificates to clear for business class and AIDA to Honolulu. So that didn't seem like a bad option either.
After you bought premium economy, because you can't go from economy to business anymore with those.
Right, but the premium economy fares were not
He threw money at it, Richard.
I know. He edited it.
I flew the Couchy, and it was great.
Oh, I wanted to fly the Couchy, but the timing of them is, I don't remember what the exact scheduling was, but the timing of it from Tokyo to Honolulu is much less efficient than the timing from Honolulu to Tokyo.
Honolulu to Tokyo was excellent. So anyone considering doing a 2-for-1, it was great. You fly lunchtime from Hawaii and you land, and it's about 3 in Tokyo. And so all you have to do is get to your hotel, have dinner, and go to bed. And yes, you've gone to the next day, but don't worry about that fact. Just worry about the fact that it's now bedtime.
Yeah, there's really nothing that I've found that's efficient about going the other way because we're just continue to lose travel days as we make our way back across the globe.
Well, I win the air travel portion of this trip because I flew a low-cost carrier to Japan. I flew Zip Air, which is
Zip Air.
Yeah. It was actually great. I did fly their lie flat seat on the way back because somebody has to test it out and write the review. It actually from the West Coast, I would do it a million times again. It was so cheap, especially if I could fly at a non-peak time. It was so cheap. If we flew peak spring break, so it was not as cheap.
Yeah.
But still, it was like half the price of United Economy, and the seats were newer and nicer.
Yeah, and was from the West Coast? I don't know their timing. Are they red eyes?
I'm trying to remember. No, we landed at like 8:00 at night, so we left I think about 2:00 in the afternoon, something like that. I can't remember the exact timing of when we left, and it was doable. We went right to bed when we got there, and on the way back it's a 9 p.m. flight, and you just go right to sleep.
Yeah, it's a little more awkward from East Coast timing. We're a noon departure from here, and it lands in Tokyo at like 3:30. So, but that's also 2 a.m. body clock time. So it should be an interesting first.
Ignore that. Like I tell my kids, like that is irrelevant information.
Doesn't matter.
Need plenty of sunlight. Plenty of sunlight. That's all we got to do.
Yeah.
All right. So, Summer, we'll start with you since Leslie got the first question. To close us out, you did your time setting aside the new park and the things that we don't know yet. Any regrets? Any things you missed out on? Things that you want to do going back?
No regrets. I just want to go back. I think we did the most we could have possibly done in the time that we had. And that was a good amount, especially because we went before Fantasy Springs opened.
Yeah.
I loved everything that we did. I mean, some rides were down for refurbishment while we were there. So I'd love to get back and do those. I did not do any of the sit down, really kind of dining experiences in the park. So that would be fun, but I don't regret my choice not doing it. I like how I spent the time. We did all quick service and it was amazing. I just want to go back. Even if Fantasy Springs hadn't been added, I would still just want to go back. And since there's now new stuff to do, a new place to stay, I really want to go back.
You're talking about edible quick service food in a Disney park, right?
Right.
It was
edible.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It was excellent. And yeah, it was excellent. And I only ate at things that you could order in their app because I just didn't want to waste any time on just eating because who cares? But what we did get was generally excellent.
Yeah, nothing against Andy's lunchbox, but come on, Tokyo, Japan.
Well, there is plenty in Tokyo you cannot order quick service in the app, but there are some you can, and we just stuck with those.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if and I may have already missed the window, by the way, but I'm trying to decide if we want to do sit down for the Duffy experience, just to say that we've eaten with Duffy, but we do have a couple of meals that are programmed into our massive package that may or may not happen just based on what we're doing. But I am curious, over or under 3 different varieties of all the popcorn flavors they have, Summer?
That we ate?
Yeah.
We were under because, again, I was not going to waste, and it's not really wasting, but for us it was, waste time in the popcorn line. So I think we had 2. I know we had the honey, and I think we had one other, and they were great. But yeah, we weren't going to get in the long line, so we just took it when we would see a short line.
Yeah. All right, Leslie, any regrets from your trip?
No regrets. Like Summer, I'm dying to go back. I really want to see Fantasy Springs. I mean, I wish we could have postponed the trip. But at the same time, I'm glad we went when we went. I loved going during the springtime.
Yeah.
The weather was really perfect. I don't think I would want to be in Tokyo Disney in summertime like everybody is right now. So, too hot. It's just like Florida all over again, maybe more humid. So no regrets. I mean, I will say we did have a little bit of a snafu our second day. My son woke up with a stomach bug, and that was the day we were flying home that night. It was rough. It was rough. I think I messaged you somewhere at the time. I was like, because you had a kid who got sick at the very end of your trip. Yeah.
We didn't know it at the time, but ultimately a flu and COVID positive kid. It sucked.
Yeah, no. Well, stomach bug was, it's short-lived. It's a 24-hour thing, but it was the last 24 hours we had in Disney. So it did slow us down. Well, luckily, because we were staying right there at the Tokyo Disneyland Hotel, my son was just sort of able to sleep there in the room, and we felt like okay leaving him. We were steps away in the park until checkout time, and then we just kind of traded off sitting with him in the lobby of the hotel, and it was a little bit rough, but we got through it. And by the time we flew home, he was already showing signs of being on the mend, which was great. But yeah, that's that is the peril of traveling with kids or just traveling generally, right? Like you're going to pick up stuff.
That's the Mary Kerr timing right there. Guaranteed to
know.
throw
That
up
sounds
right
like
before or during a trip. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have one tidbit. It's not a regret, but it's a piece of information I wish I would have had ahead of time. And that was, unless I just missed it entirely, there is no easy food at the Tokyo Disney Sea Hotel Miracosta like there is at the other one. So when we stayed, it's one of the reasons I liked the Disneyland Hotel better. They had like a much bigger, it looked like a convenience store, frankly, but like Japanese convenience stores are excellent. So there was just much easier kind of grab and go food in that hotel than there was in Miracosta. So we did do the sit down meals in Miracosta, but just because we had to, there was really nothing else to eat there. And we weren't really oriented enough yet on day one of being in Japan to like figure out how to go further afield for quick service food. So that wasn't a regret, but it was something I didn't really realize ahead of time that was kind of a pain in the butt on our first night in Japan.
Yeah, I have a feeling that I'm sure I made choices in this package that are not going to be the ideal choices, but since I was given a choice of one package and one package only, I went with that one package and figured we would just, whatever regrets we have when we're done, we'll have them, and it just means we got to go back. So, Mr. Kerr, I'm curious. I heard about the newest popcorn flavor at Tokyo Disney Sea. I'm curious if you're, I'll say if you're a buyer or a seller, since you don't like Smash or Pass, apparently. Are you,
Smash or Pass on this show?
Are you a buyer or a seller on roast beef flavored popcorn?
Oh, absolutely. Everything in Japan you can taste it all, do it all.
Yeah.
Never say no in Japan once. You'll come to learn what to say no to, but at least say yes the first time and having a wonderful time. I miss Japan. I cannot believe it, almost 8 years removed from leaving now because Thomas was born there. And
right.
when he turns 10, we said we were going to take him back to show him where he was born in the house that we brought him home to. I love Japan. I wish I could raise a family there. It's an amazing place to go and experience. So whether you like Disney or not, you should go check out this Disney park because of, I think, like Leslie said at the beginning, Japanese culture just shines through more so, and you like immediately see and experience how much better Japan culture is than probably where you're listening to this podcast right now. So everybody get over to Japan and check it out.
Love it. Well, I appreciate all the help, tips, and trips. I will absolutely report back for everyone and let you guys know. Hopefully I am anywhere nearly as successful as both of you guys were in your recent trips. Leslie, close us out. Tell us where folks can find you when you're not hopping on here with us.
I am tripswithtykes.com, my blog. I've got some really detailed strategy Tokyo Disney posts up there. So if you really want to geek out, Ed, and prepare for your trip.
Oh, I'm knee deep right now.
All right. And I'm at Trista Tykes everywhere on social media. I also co-host the Disney Deciphered podcast with Joe Chung, who you guys know well. And you can sometimes find me on The Points Guy because Summer occasionally will throw articles my way.
Love it. Yes, and I do know the pod well. I've listened for, you guys have been, as we discussed earlier, you guys have been podcasting for about as long as Miles to Go has been around, and I've been a listener since the very beginning. Summer, tell folks where they can find you when you're not hanging out in Tokyo.
I'm on, the old people social channels as Mommy Points.
MySpace.
TikTok, I'm a lurker. But you can also, like Leslie was saying, Leslie and I did a guide to Tokyo Disney that's on The Points Guy. I also reviewed both the Tokyo Disneyland Hotel and the Miracosta one on The Points Guy. And I'm often there behind the scenes helping with stories and the daily newsletter. So if I'm not writing it, I'm still lurking behind the scenes there too.
Love it. Mr. Kerr, the audience wants to know, your adoring public wants to know, have you bought the little wheelie cart to get around the airport yet?
No, there's no wheelie cart in my future here.
What?
How are you getting to New York on one leg? That's what the public wants to know, Richard.
I am staying home for the next 2 weeks. I am not.
Okay, I missed a storyline.
Yeah, Mr. Kerr has one less calf muscle than the rest of us right now.
Sounds like a problem. That's a real math problem.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, that worked in our favor. It was a tale as old as time. The aging man plays pickleball and reaches for a ball, and the calf pops, and here we are. So
I can send you my kids' crutches if you need them.
They're probably tall enough.
And the good news is it's not like he's running a 10K in a few months, so it should all be just fine.
It'll all work out, Lots of protein and collagen, and it'll grow back. So they tell me.
So what we're saying is no airplanes for Mr. Kerr this week.
Nope, not this week. Staying home.
All right. Well, we're not 100% sure when this is dropping. It'll probably drop while I'm in Tokyo, so lots more to come, pictures and all that cool stuff from over in Tokyo. Big thanks to Summer and Leslie for hopping on with us today. Mr. Kerr, I may have to buy you that wheelie cart and send it to you just to see you puttering around the Atlanta airport trying to dodge around the lines.
Ain't gonna happen, man. I'll stay home until I can walk.
I love it. All right, all that and a whole lot more until we upload again. We've got miles to go.
I got a lot of jokes about that, but I'll hold on to it for now.